Guys, welcome back to another episode of the Crimson Crossover podcast presented by the Field of 68 and J&J Apparel. I'm Christian Sykes, as always, joined by Joey Blackwell and Charles Branch. How are you guys doing today?
I'll let Charles go first. I always go first when how we're doing.
Yeah, tough game Friday night. Great atmosphere. Again, that's something that I hope we do more, not only on the road, but having some of these games early in November in Coleman Coliseum. Didn't go the way that we wanted to, and I know we'll get into a little bit. Yeah, it's a loss, and people are expecting more from this team. I would say, any negativity towards this team right now is probably more related to just the Arkansas State and the McNeese State game, and now you have a loss to show for it. But I come away a little bit more encouraged just where we are. Everything is fixable, and we're going to have a lot of opportunities to fix it over the next couple games. But all in all, we feel like this will take a little bit of time, and we're just going to have to be a little patient with it right now.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to have a loss and not feel a little bit disappointed. But I think the loss will ultimately serve us good. I think it kind of came at a time where we'd already struggled those previous two games, so it was bound to happen eventually. So why not go ahead and get that out of the way at the beginning of the stretch? I know on the space I was negative about talking about how it really would have been nice to get a win at the beginning of the stretch. But the good thing is that by having that loss, hopefully they can see some of the errors. Because having played, high school sports and stuff, it's hard to, as a player, it's hard to see, it's more difficult to see errors when you're continuing to win, even if they are struggle wins. But if you have that loss, it really helps put things into perspective. I was no college athlete, so I'll fully admit that. But I know that that mindset can eke into teams sometimes. So hopefully they're able to kind of see that, work on those shortcomings. And I'm really excited about this game on Wednesday because it's a perfect opportunity for them to come out and put those correct those errors on a national scale.
Yeah, I think for the game on Friday, I if the game would have ended, and Charles, you're the one that's probably watched it the most recent. If the game would have ended at the under four timeout, I would have been fine. Like I would
Mm-hmm.
have been like, okay, like they're obviously they get went on a 13-0 run. It's Purdue, they're a really good team, but the team fought, they kept it close, they didn't really give up. They Purdue won some 50-50 balls, whatever it is, what it is. It's a home court road game for Alabama. It's fine. The thing that sticks with me the most is how Alabama finished the game after fighting for 36 minutes, right? They it felt a little like the Purdue game last year, where once it hit that under four, Alabama, for whatever reason, didn't have the legs to stick with Purdue, although their Alabama's depth is significantly better than Purdue's. Another thing that stuck with me on that game is just the inefficiency that continues to be with Jaron Stevenson. I understand Oates, and again, we've talked about this ad nauseum, especially in the offseason, wants Jaron to be able to play that kind of three role, but he's yet to make a 3-point shot. He's not stretching the floor. Heck, Purdue was just leaving him open at the end of the game, allowing him to shoot that, and he still hasn't made a shot. I know we saw the Clemson game of what Jaron Stevenson could be, um, but I'm almost to the point where that was an outlier rather than, you know, him normally. Um, I don't think him playing the three is beneficial to this team currently. I think that Mo Diabate should be playing that role more. Um, just because he's a little bit smaller, he's a little bit more agile, able to defend multiple positions a little bit better than Jaron is. And at least he brings some type of either rim finishing, or he has shown an ability to shoot it from three, although it's what, three of five or something like that. Um, and then another thing that, not saying Mark played poorly as far as a defensive effort is concerned. I think he played pretty well, holding Braden Smith 6 of 18. But offensively, your All American guard can't go, what was it, 5 of 15 and 1 of 6. And probably five of those shots were wide open, um, or at least wide open for Mark Sears. That, if you get anything out of Mark Sears, you win that game. And I know that he's going to bounce back. He's Mark Sears. He's the best player in the SEC, if not one of the best players in the country. Maybe it's just an off game for him. It's fine. Uh, but you can't have your All American guard go 5 of 15. You either have to distribute the ball better if you're Mark, or hit the open shots. And he had 6 assists, so he was doing a pretty good job. But maybe take a few less shots than 15 if you're not hitting it well, and try to pass a little bit better. But all in all, it's a loss on a rough road environment. It is what it is. It's basketball. It's also November 18th, as we're recording this. So any overreaction is kind of insane. Um, so
Man, I think you got to give up a lot of credit to Trey Kaufman-Renn. He played fabulous. It was obviously his night from the very start with that first three-pointer he hit as the shot clock was expiring. And you got to give a lot of credit to CJ Cox, too, coming out there and hitting 3 straight threes in a row when we had built a 6-point lead. Um, when I went back and watched it today, I thought our defense was fine. It didn't seem like we were getting lost a ton. We could have done a better job boxing out in the first half. They were 5 of 6 from three in the second half. So we obviously did not do a good job guarding the 3-point line. Not only in the second half, I mean, the whole game, they were 9 of 16. And this is a good 3-point shooting team. They were shooting above 40% coming in to the game. Fletcher Lawyer goes 3 of 5. As you mentioned, you held Braden Smith somewhat in check. I mean, he scored 17 points, but it took 18 shots to do it. And he still had 10 assists, and a lot of those were going to Kaufman-Renn. So you give those guys credit for making those plays, and for Matt Painter, who's a very experienced coach, for putting them in those situations. What I come away frustrated with on the defensive side, and this is something that has been part of our defensive philosophy, or just we haven't been a team that really turns the other team over a lot of times. So you come away from this game, Purdue only has 3 turnovers. Maybe that's to be somewhat expected because of having senior guards and experienced players. Their first turnover doesn't come until about like 2 minutes in the first half on a moving screen. The second one comes from a side out of bounds with a few seconds left on the shot clock where they were trying to lob play. It's our only steal of the night. And then the third one was Braden Smith traveling. One, I shouldn't be able to rattle all these off with it only being 3 turnovers a game. But in a game with 68 possessions, 65 times they're getting a shot up to end a possession. 96% of the time, they're finishing the offensive possession with a shot. We're allowing teams to run their offense. And I know we've had some games, of course, both exhibition and against Arkansas State, where they were called tightly. So I don't know if it's a situation where you're trying to keep guys on the floor, you're trying to force teams into bad shots, difficult shots. Again, give credit to Purdue. They made those difficult shots. But I would think with our guard play and with our athleticism, we should be able to turn teams over a lot more than just 3 turnovers in a game. On the Jaron Stevenson point, look, we saw it with Javon Quinterly for much of his career at Alabama. He was better coming off the bench. Jaron kind of got thrown into the starting lineup last year when Latrell got hurt and did not play particularly well. He plays much better coming off the bench. This year, he's kind of the same situation where we feel like Chris Youngblood would be starting, but you do have guys like Mo Diabate. You've got Darian Reed, who could also start at the 3 position. While it is time to try things out and see what can work as you get into conference play, for somebody who is 0 of 13, and he had some good attempts that, they weren't bad misses. I think he had a few go in and out. But he needs to start getting some confidence. This team needs to start getting some confidence from behind the 3-point line. Like you said, Mark Sears going 1 of 6 is an anomaly. We know he's a much better shooter than that. But we've got to start finding confidence with guys in their shot, but also how they're going to play. And of course, not letting their offense affect their defense, or their defense affect their offense as well.
Only Mark Sears could score 15 points, and that'd be considered a disappointment. No, overall, I'm not too concerned about the offense. I know a lot of people were after this past week, but the shots are going to fall eventually. The good thing was that they were taking shots. One of the things early on that we worried about those first couple of games was why isn't Bama shooting threes? This game, they shot a lot. They shot 29 on the night. They hit 9. So at least they turned that around and started making more attempts, but obviously it doesn't mean anything if your percentage is only 31% on the night. I think the offense, I think it's going to be fine. It's just taking a while for these guys to get warmed up. I think it's taking longer than we have seen in previous years under Oates, and that could be just because we had such a high turnover. But the thing that gets me about this game was, I know, Christian, you talked about how if it had ended with 4 minutes left, you'd have been fine. The thing that aggravated me was, I think it was Lawyer that hit that buzzer beater 3 at the end of the first half, right? You have that 3-point, and Bama had just finally gotten the lead, like just prior to that. If Lawyer hits that 3, Bama comes out the second half, they fight for a couple of minutes, but that ultimately was the nail in the coffin, and it just kind of spiraled from there. That would be more understandable to me than Bama was clearly the better basketball team the first half of that second half, those first 10 minutes. They were just, if you just look at the play-by-play, look at the scoring, Bama was just all over them. And then to just completely give that up, we've seen this in, not counting the UNC Asheville game, both Arkansas State and McNeese. We've seen Bama jump out to these big leads and have all the momentum in the world and then just fall apart when they have that lead. They get to, I know you were talking about confidence, Charles. There's also such a thing as being overly confident, letting that get the better of you. I think that some egos, not egos, that's a bad way of saying it. That making me sound like this team is prideful. I think this team just needs to get their mentality right when they build up those leads. They don't need to get too comfortable. No lead is safe. We've seen that now 3 times. And this is an Illinois team, which we'll talk about in a little bit, that is, while they haven't played they haven't played a tough schedule yet. This will be their first power conference game. This is still an Illinois team that made it to an Elite Eight last year. Yes, I know they only have one returning starter, but this is Illinois. So, and they are more than capable of able, to do what Purdue just did to us the other night. So, we were talking about at the very beginning, just about, losses and shaking it off. I think this is a loss that they can shake off very easily, but only if they can make those corrections. Fortunately, they did have 6 days in between these 2 games, so they did have a whole weekend to figure things out. I still have confidence in this team. Maybe in mid-December, I'll look back at my folly and say, what was Joey thinking? But right now, I think this team's going to be fine as long as they treat this seriously and correct those mistakes.
Well, and last year's team had a tough time too of putting teams away. You think about the first time against Clemson. We had a 9-point lead. Maybe it wasn't that high, but then of course Clemson comes back and wins that game. We had a lead in all 3 of those games of Purdue, Creighton, and Arizona, and lost all 3 of them. We had the lead against Tennessee at home late in the season and couldn't close that one out. We had
UConn.
We had a lead against Connecticut. Had a lead against Auburn by 12 at halftime the first time around in Tuscaloosa, won that game, but Auburn came all the way back and took a lead late in the second half as well. So I don't know if it's from a coaching standpoint. I don't know if, like you said, guys just having their mindset of when we get a lead, it's time to go win the game. It's not just, hey, we've got a lead so we can go play. Like, let's go finish the game. Let's go win the game right now instead of, just playing the game and giving a team confidence to get back in the game as well. If there was 2 additional positives or 2 positives in the game, of course, LeBaron Philon have played fantastic for his first true road test. Just played a great game. I'm not going to expect that from LeBaron every time out. LeBaron, I do expect a guy is going to be up and down, just as you would, just being a typical freshman. But I did think we also attacked the paint really, really well. We finished, I think, for 2-point shots, 17 of 34. So pretty much on line as far as what you want to be there. If you could be a little bit higher, that would obviously be great. Don't miss your dunks down low. I know Cliff had a pretty easy look late in the second half that he missed. That happens. That's basketball. but I really liked seeing us take it to Purdue down in the paint and the ball movement down there as well, as far as short rolls and hitting guys on the block and lobs and stuff like that. I was really encouraged with the offensive movement from what I saw during the game. And again, there were pieces, you can see the pieces. Now, can we just put a full 40 minutes together and this team play like we feel like they're capable of playing?
Well, and there's a couple of other things that I want to point out as positives. One, Alabama had 8 turnovers. When's the last time Alabama's had 8 turnovers in a game?
And they shot 87% from the free throw line, which had been an issue for them.
Yeah. And then the other positive I would say is Cliff Amori. He had 4 blocks in that game. I actually didn't even realize that it was 4 blocks until I was looking at the scoreboard or the box score right now. While we didn't force a lot of turnovers, when they got to the rim outside of Kaufman Wren, like they had a hard time scoring at the rim. Kaufman Wren, I think that's just a lack of adjustment from the defensive perspective. They consistently got to his right shoulder or left shoulder and let him do that little spinning hook that he kind of was doing against us the entire game. If you go to his right shoulder and make him go left, I think that's a very different game. But it was consistently, we were on his right shoulder or left shoulder. He would spin to his right, do a hook shot. It would go in more than 50% of the time. The guy shot 23 shots. I think that's that's a fixable thing. I do think that we saw similar shades of last year of Grant Nelson, of him not being able to defend the post. And Kaufman Wren's a good post scorer, but Grant looked completely outmatched. They basically tried to keep subbing Cliff for Grant when Kaufman Wren came in, but then Cliff got into some foul trouble. He got banged in an area that you don't want to, as far as getting hit in the family jewels, I guess. But overall, I was thoroughly impressed with Cliff's game outside of the missed dunk. The free throw shooting is another positive, and the turnovers. I mean, Mark had 4 turnovers. I think Mark just had a bad game, but the rest of the team, they had 4 turnovers as well combined. So that's positive. And then obviously LeBaron Filan, I don't expect him to go 70, 75 every game. If he does, then he might be the number 1 overall pick in the draft next year. But he's showing signs of kind of the things that we heard about in the offseason. So all in all, I don't think it's such a bad loss as kind of what people put it out to be. It's not the end of the world. Alabama's going to lose a few of these games in this 7-game stretch, where I think Blake Byler put out a tweet where at least 7 or 6 of the 7 are going to be against ranked opponents. For whatever reason, Nate Oates wants to make fans have to go insane because that's psycho behavior, in my opinion. Like it's just you couldn't play Alabama A&M. You couldn't play like a Middle Tennessee in there. You couldn't throw in some South Alabama in within this stretch. No, we have to go play at least 6 ranked games, probably 7 ranked games in a row, because that's what Nate Oates wants to do. And he got to the Final Four. I didn't get to the Final Four, so I think he knows what he's doing.
We should just start having Alabama's schedules be played on CBS in November with the March Madness theme, because that's what's pretty much what it feels like for those 6 or 7 games. I would like to say one thing, going back to what you were saying about Grant, and this theme of positivity we have right now. The good thing about Grant is that Purdue's a really tall team, and Illinois, who we're about to play, is the 4th tallest team in the country. But they are by far the tallest team on Alabama's schedule this year, where they have a lot of length, and that's been an issue for Grant these past couple of games. But the good thing is that after this Wednesday, we'll kind of have that all out of the way, and so we'll start seeing Grant's matchups, I think, go a lot better in his favor from here on out. So that's a silver lining to Friday and potentially this Wednesday if it doesn't go very well.
Yeah, you just have to face Houston directly after that game because
That's true.
because of
Well,
course.
but at least they're not tall.
Yeah.
Comparatively.
Oh, and then you have to go face Rutgers. Yeah, because
Stack
again,
Why don't we just throw like the Lakers and the
yeah,
Pelicans and a couple other these NBA teams in there too? They don't
just
supposed to us to play NBA teams. Just throw it in there.
well. Speaking of
Uh,
Illinois, we got that on Wednesday night. I think at 7. Is it 7 or 8 p.m. Central?
Hey,
Eight
it's a
p.m.
late one
Central.
again.
In Birmingham. Also, by the way, for whatever reason, NATO's decided that we're not going to play a home game until Creighton, December 14th. So
Well, also, can you explain to me why this game? I was reading in a preview earlier. I forget which article it was. This game is the only power conference matchup of the day. Why are we tipping it off at 8 p.m. Central? Or
I
why
mean,
is it so late?
technically that would be like prime time, wouldn't it?
I mean, it'd be 7 p.m. Eastern, but I
9
don't
p.m.
know.
Eastern. Trust me.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I meant 7 p.m. Mountain and 6 Western.
I'm
But
pretty sure that's the prime time slot.
I'm just tired of these late games. I'm tired
Oh,
of.
you're tired of the late games?
That's, you're right. I can't talk. It
Um,
is it's a living in God's time zone. I need to be more grateful.
but speaking of Illinois, Charles, I think you did the research on the matchup.
yeah. So, along with being the fourth tallest team in college basketball, I think this has to be an early candidate for the all name team. Let me just, you know, good luck to the PA announcer on Wednesday night. Let me just rattle a few of these off. We do start with an easy one, Will Riley, who's been phenomenal for them starting the year, shooting almost 70% from the 3-point line, averaging 17 points a game. Then we go to Tomislav Abisic, who's also averaging 17 points a game. And just off of what we were just talking about with struggling in the post defensively, to what Joey was also talking about, we are going to be tested again very quickly against this team. He averages 17. The next guy is Ben. Uh, this is the only one that I feel like I'm going to struggle with. Hummerchaus is what I'm going to go with. But he's also averaging 13 points a game. Then you got Dre Gibbs Lawhorn. He's averaging 10. Then you got Kasparis Jakunis, and he's averaging 9 points a game. And then you got Trey White. And then you got Killian Boswell, who transferred from Arizona, who was a key contributor for them last year as a number 2 seed. So you've got a really good team that's also coached by a really good coach in Brad Underwood. Came over from Oklahoma State after having a very successful stint at Stephen F. Austin. Took him a little bit of time to get it going at Illinois, but in the 2020-2021 season, had them as a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, eventually lost to Loyola Chicago, but they've consistently made the tournament. As was mentioned, made the Elite Eight last year before bowing out to Connecticut. But I expect, when we talk about challenging ourselves, this will be a different challenge. This is also a team that plays with a pretty good tempo. So their bigs should be able to run with us as well. It's not necessarily a situation where we've played teams with some size and we try to speed up the game and see if they can sit a little bit. I expect these guys to be conditioned and be able to play with the pace. But a great opportunity in Birmingham. For years, we've really struggled in Birmingham, obviously with the NCAA tournament being there and then the Liberty game, we've gotten on a winning streak. But, prior to Coach Oates getting to Alabama, we had a lot of games in Birmingham that we would not win. And I always thought these were some of the most crucial games early on in the season because a lot of the fan base does live in Birmingham. And so when you come and you have a game in their backyard and you don't win it, then people don't get as excited to go drive an hour to Tuscaloosa and then drive back. You don't necessarily have that situation anymore because of where Coach Oates has taken this program. But these are great opportunities to excite the fan base, to get more people willing to come down for 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock conference games when you get in January and February, and make sure that Coleman Coliseum is a tough place to play every night, just on the weekends. So this game on Wednesday, I think, is not only is it really important because we're playing a good team, but it's important because of where it is and an opportunity to continue to keep the fan base excited about what this team can be, as we go throughout the season.
The tough thing about this team right now is that it's kind of hard to predict how they're going to match up against Alabama because of the schedule they've had so far. They played South Illinois, Edwardsville, I believe, and they are 304th in Ken Palm. Eastern Illinois, which is in the 340s in Ken Palm. Then their toughest opponent of the year is Oakland. And that being said, they've dominated all three of those teams. They played really good games. But one of the strengths of this team so far has been their defense. They measure, I think, they're 8th in the country in effective floor defense. They're 13th at defending the perimeter, which is something that Alabama's definitely going to need to overcome if they're wanting to shoot well. And if they need to have a game to come out and shoot the three well from, this is going to be a tough game to do it. But the good thing is that if they are able to do that, that'll set a good precedent, I think. Illinois right now, they're averaging scoring a bucket on about 57% of their trips down to their offensive zone. Which is good. I mean, it's not elite, but it's solid. But the thing that also gets them is that they draw a foul on 50% of their shooting possessions, which is something which I think that's second in the country. So, and we all know Alabama's had some issues when they face teams that are really good at getting the fouls called their way. So overall, the difficulty is, like I said, you have to keep this all into perspective because of the opponents that they've played. But this is still a very solid team. Purdue is a really good team, but they do have their shortcomings when it comes to athleticism. Illinois is kind of the opposite. They have a very athletic, very solid roster. They're very they can be very fast. I think that it would be nice if Alabama was playing a team right after Purdue that had a kind of the same strengths and weaknesses as Purdue did, but that's not the case. I feel like Purdue really is a completely different team than Purdue, and a lot of their strengths are stuff that Purdue lacked in, so it's going to be a difficult adjustment for Alabama. But that being said, with this being Illinois' first Power 5 game, I really like Alabama's chances. I think, like we talked about earlier, I think the loss is going to play into it here, and I think that they're going to be motivated, especially with it being in Birmingham. So I like our odds in this game. That being said, Illinois is not going to go down easy. There's going to be this would not surprise me. This is a game that Bama trails for a good bit. It's going to be a close one.
So a couple of things. One, would you call this a must-win game?
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't have.
I almost would. I know it sounds crazy because it's November 18th and I'm saying that, but you're looking at 3 straight losses in the face if you don't win this game. While
maybe more,
exactly, maybe more. While I think that it doesn't really hurt you, right? If you lose this game, as far as a resume perspective, as far as a confidence perspective, I think it does. I think that after that Purdue game, right? You look at this team, you're saying, okay, now these are 3 straight games where Alabama shot below 33% or so from 3, right? They haven't been in a flow offensively, and you're kind of just biding your time until Chris Youngblood hopefully comes back and provides the offensive spark that you're needing or that you're missing from this team, right? I think going into the Players Era tournament that you have in 2 weeks or next week, you need to come off with a win. Otherwise, there's a strong possibility, and I think even with the win, there's a strong possibility you lose to Houston, and then now you have to go play Rutgers, and then most likely a Oregon team or a Creighton team again. And so you might play Creighton in 2 out of 3 games. So I almost call this a must-win game. I also think for this team, them not seeing the number 2 next to their name is good. I think that they are resting on those preseason expectations a little too much, assuming that they're going to win games instead of going out and playing games. I think last year's team also struggled with that a bit. I think Latrell Wrightsell going down was the ultimate reason why they finished the season with going into the NCAA tournament so poorly. But I think, Charles, you said it best about when they get a lead, they need to go win the game. I think that Herb Jones team did that the best out of any Nate Oates team I've ever seen, where they got a lead and they didn't give up. They put their foot down and they said, I'm going to go beat you by 30 points. And I think Brandon Miller's team also did that, but they had a tendency sometimes to kind of do that early on. But both of those teams did that exceptionally well. And you need to have that type of mentality where I'm not just going to hang on the fact that I'm winning by 10 points, 15 points. We're going to outshoot them. We're going to win the game. I'm going to go say, I'm going to go win this game by 30 points. So hopefully that's the type of mentality that these guys start having, because this is now, like Charles said, 3 games in a row where you've given up leads. And if you want to go win the whole thing, you don't need to give up leads.
I mean, I think this is a blue collar game. I think the team that wins the rebounding battle is going to probably be the team that wins on Wednesday night. Both teams rebound the ball very well. Our ability to clean up the glass on the defensive side, find ways to get an offensive rebound and get second chance points. I think that's going to be pretty key. Now, it could be even, it could be either way, plus or minus 1 or 2, and it doesn't come out that way. But I really think the team that's going to win the rebounding battle and do the dirty work down low and finish possessions is ultimately going to be the team that prevails on Wednesday night.
And that goes hand in hand with what I was going to say. I think this game is going to be won inside the 3-point line, not outside of it. I think in combination with the physicality that you were just talking about, rebounding, getting boards, I think scoring at the rim for Alabama is going to be big in this game. If that is, hopefully they're able to hit the 3, but if they're not, Illinois right now is averaging 14.7 shots from 2 per game, while Alabama is making I think 20.3 per game. So if Alabama's able to maintain that and they're able to play aggressive and get those boards and kind of pick up what they were lacking against Purdue, I think that basically there's going to be a lot of battles in the point. I think it's going to be a very physical game. And I think that I agree with Charles. I think that's where this game is won or lost on Wednesday.
And I want to say that at times Alabama's looking to run in transition a little too much. Not saying that it's a bad thing, but in that Purdue game, you're only sending 1 or 2 people to go get a rebound off of a defensive miss, offensive miss. So Purdue missing the shot, and Purdue sending 4 people to go get a rebound. Well, you got a 2-man advantage there, and you're not going to get the defensive rebound. Purdue's going to go get a second shot, and more often than not, they were making them. With a team that has a lot of length, like this Illinois team, you need to send guys to the glass to go get a rebound. If that slows down your transition offense just a little bit, I think it's fine, right? Just have good ball movement, make smart decisions. They only had 8 turnovers versus Purdue. Like that's pretty good. I know that the possessions were limited, the pace was slowed down, but like 8 turnovers versus in a 40-minute game, that's good. Just do that same type of thing. There was times where, like LeBaron Filan, the one I remember specifically, where he had an open shot, but he sees Mark Sears at the top of the key. He passes it to Mark wide open, and Mark misses the shot. Like those are smart basketball decisions that guys are making throughout the game. We just need to continue to make them, and the shots are going to fall. I think we're due a positive regression as far as shooting is concerned. It's just ensuring that we're taking high quality shots. And I think Oates said it in his press conference that the people that we need to shoot the ball are getting the balls to make the shot. Not guys, I'm not saying Jaren can't go 5 of 6, 5 of 7 from 3, but maybe instead of Jaren shooting that shot, maybe it's LeBaron is shooting the shot. Maybe it's an extra pass to Latrell Wrightsell, who I think was 50% from 3 versus Purdue. Maybe it's LeBaron Filan making the shot, or Aiden Holloway. I still have faith in Aiden Holloway that he's going to hit the shot. Much like Jaren, he just needs to a shot to go down. I think he's still hesitating at times. I think LeBaron hesitated a little bit versus Purdue as well. And that like second guessing is what Aiden is losing the ability to make a shot on. Is not, oh, he took a bad shot. It's, oh, he's second guessing that little half second that he's taking puts him out of his rhythm. I'm sorry, I'm going on tangents,
No,
but
you're good. Well, I just look, I do think this is a team. This is not a live by the three, die by the three team. Yes, we did not shoot the ball well from three against Purdue, but we were still very much in that game. And I think could have won it even with these 3-point shooting percentages that we had. It was more, could we get some more stops? Yeah, could we finish a little bit more at the rim? But I think this is a team that doesn't have to be a great 3-point shooting team to be successful. Now, I still think it can be a really good 3-point shooting team. I thinking about last year's team, when Wrightsville went down, I think except for the Ole Miss game where Davin Cosby got really hot from behind the 3-point line and a couple other guys too. I mean, we were in a pretty serious shooting slump. We may have been shooting like 28, 29, 30%. Like that's going to happen, of course, during a basketball season. I think that happened with Brandon Miller's the team the year before that as well. We've got the pieces to be able to beat you, all across the floor. Again, I think that's why I was really encouraged with some things that I saw as it related to attacking the paint. That can travel with you into any basketball arena if you can attack the rim and get good looks there. It's nights here and there whether you're going to be hitting the outside shot. But for anybody that would be out there talking about Alabama's a live by the three, die by the three team, and that's why we're struggling. No, we're struggling because of other issues right now, but I think we all agree those issues are fixable, and getting the 3-point shots to fall is only going to make this team better and much more difficult for teams to beat. I mean, if we're hitting our threes, I don't know who can beat us right now.
But you put up 78 points in a low possession game while shooting 31% from three.
Right.
And another encouraging thing from the Purdue game is when you needed a shot outside of the final 4 minutes, when you needed a shot, they got to the rim. I mean, and they were finishing well at the rim. Aiden Holloway did really well, which he didn't do last year. LeBaron Filan, I don't know what his mentality is, but that man is fighting for every single rebound with the bigs almost every single time. He might not get the rebound, but he sure is going to be down there. He reminds me a lot of, I know this is a terrible comparison, of like kind of Herb's mentality. I don't know if that makes sense, where he doesn't remind me of Herb Jones because they play completely differently. But as far as like the blue collar mentality that he has, like he's going to fight for every single rebound. He's going to fight for every single loose ball. I really wish that he would not do a better job, but I really wish that he could get in the passing lanes a little bit more, because he does have the length as far as wingspan to kind of get a little bit more steals, be a little bit more aggressive. I think he got an unfortunate whistle at times versus Purdue, but all in all, like just the type of mentality that him and like Mo Diabate have is the kind of mentality that the kind of gritty mentality that this team needs in order to kind of have the success that they want. And I think this is what the Purdue and I think the McNeese State were two games where I know we lost the Purdue blue collar point battle, but I think the McNeese State, it was pretty close to being lost as well. And that's why I'm kind of an advocate, at least right now, of Mo Diabate starting at the three to kind of set the tone for the team rather than him coming off the bench. But I'm, again, not a Final Four coach, not an NBA coach. I'm just a guy that talks about Alabama basketball. Well,
we got the guys to do it. And I don't have any problem with what they've been doing as far as lineups. Because yes, if a lineup with Cliff, Grant, Jaron, and two guards works out, it only makes it that much harder for teams to beat us. And there's still the possibility that it could work out, but we got to get production from the three spot, and we just haven't gotten consistent production yet. And we've got guys who can do it, and I would even include Jaron in that group of guys that can do it. But we're not to that point in the season where we have to have it, but I think from a confidence standpoint, everybody'd like to start seeing it.
Well, guys, did I miss anything? Did we forget to talk about anything?
We got
I
three
don't
new
think so.
commitments to the program, or not
Mm.
commitments, but signings.
Yeah, I guess we got one new commitment, Hannah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's good.
I think he plays like the
That
two
was that
slash
was the
three.
good news before the Purdue game.
Yeah, I think he plays as like the 2/3 for us. And then Jemison, one of them plays like the 3/4. Maybe I don't know if that's in London or if that's Allen. It might be Allen. I can't remember. Um, but basically, what I'm trying to say from all of that, it looks like that we're going to probably go get another transfer portal guard out of the, and then we're probably going to get another big. Not probably, we're definitely going to get another big, um, with Grant and Cliff going out. So will be interesting to see what the kind of off-season turnover looks like with Chris Youngblood leaving, Mark Sears leaving, Grant leaving, Cliff leaving. Hopefully, hopefully not, but also hopefully LeBaron leaving, and maybe Darian Reed as well. So um, interested to see kind of what that looks like. But
And
um,
and you know, the expectation is we'd probably go find another high school player or two as well.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's not talking about AJ.
But give up
Like,
on AJ.
yeah,
Everyone that's listening to this, give up on AJ. He's going to BYU. We're not going to pay him enough. I've had people ask me about AJ whether or not he's coming every single day in the last like 2 months. He's not coming to Alabama. If he comes to Alabama, then he's not taking a $5 or $6 million NIL deal, which I think would just be dumb from his perspective. But um, I'll definitely eat my words if he does end up coming to Alabama. That would be the steal of the century. But I do not believe he's coming to Alabama, and I would give up on the dream. So
but there are other good players out there that we are in for, and so just we're not done in the high school ranks. And of course, once the season's over, it's transfer portal probably be wild again.
yeah. All right. Well, I think we're good to end it there. As far as our schedule, we'll have a post game space after the Illinois game. I'll be really tired, but we'll do it. And then we'll definitely record a podcast on Sunday to go over the players era. And I think we're going to also do a pregame space because people asked us to do a pregame space for Houston. And I think that that'll just cover all of our spaces for the week until we get to that next Sunday. I think instead of doing a podcast, we'll probably just do like a recap space. And then I don't know when that North Carolina game is. I think it's the following like Saturday, right?
December 4th. I think it's a Wednesday night.
Oh, so they're going directly from the players era to yeah.
Yeah.
You thought they were going to have a break, Christian?
No,
Or could you?
apparently not. Although there will be a 10-day break between the UNC game and the Creighton game. So
Yes.
But yeah, that's kind of our schedule. And other than that, we'll put out any new announcements that we have with anything. Like always, shop J&J Apparel. Be sure to like and subscribe to the video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, podcasts on Spotify and Apple. And then subscribe to Field of 68. They're doing rankings, they're doing analysis. I think they have like a daily Field of 68 newsletter that you can sign up for, something like that. Bunch of different things. But other than that, I think we're good. Sign off and roll tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.